Hi, this is Will Callan, the North American record holder for 2x2 average, and you are now listening to the Corner Cutter podcast.
Hey, welcome to the Corner Cutter podcast, episode 39. Podcasting since 2014. I'm Josh, your host. You can find links and things I mentioned in the show notes of this episode on the podcast website, thecornercutterpodcast.com. Today's guest is Will Callan. I decided to get him on because he just broke the North American record for 2x2. We dive deep into 2x2, discuss EG1, EG2, his method, 2x2 hardware, and of course his experience with the NAR. So why don't we jump right into the interview? Okay, now I have the 2x2 NAR holder on the podcast, Will Callan. Welcome.
Hi, thanks for having me on your podcast.
Yeah, you're welcome. Thanks for taking the time to come on. Yeah. Now, to start off, let's just jump right into the first question. What were your expectations for this competition?
Well, coming in, I had been doing pretty consistently like 1.8, 1.9. I was hoping to get like a PB average, I think somewhere like 1.7 something. But yeah, I was not really expecting to get that lucky just because like I've never really gotten that lucky in the past.
Mm-hmm. And this was at Tea Time Spring 2018.
Yeah, that was a 2-day comp. It was pretty exciting. It was organized by some of my friends in Virginia.
That's pretty cool. Now, starting off first round, was this the first event of the morning?
Well, no, actually, we had 2 rounds of feet before, which was kind of like they had the first round of feet and then back-to-back finals. So I actually didn't have that much time to practice for 2x2.
Uh-huh.
I just mainly tried to focus on like keeping my hands warm because that's always been like a problem that's held me back, I think.
Okay. So do you find that your first event of the competition does not go as well because you don't have as much time to warm up? Just in general?
Actually, I feel like usually I do better in the morning as long as it's not like the very first event. Because usually I'm like a little more energized, like kind of towards the end of the day, you usually get a little bit tired and it's harder to like focus. Your just hands get kind of tired after all the cubing.
Uh-huh. Okay. So let's jump right into the solves. Could you explain the first solve and how it went and then continue through?
Yeah, the first solve, it was a pretty okay time. It was like I think 1.54.
Yep.
I probably should have gotten a little bit better on it. It was an easier scramble, but that was okay for it. But yeah, I was okay with that, I guess. And then going into the next solve, there was a lot of different stuff to look at. There's like I was seeing bars all over the place. I was kind of stressing out about like what to go for. But I eventually found, I think I went for EG1 on that, and I got 1.7. And at this point, like, I'm just kind of noticing that, like, a lot of people are getting, like, ones and stuff that don't usually get, like, ones.
Really?
So, I was getting a little bit nervous, but just trying to, like, keep my head down and just, like, not pay attention to what other people are doing. Because that's been kind of something that's messed me up in the past if I'm, like, watching how Luigi's doing or something and comparing my solves to him. But yeah, and then going into the third solve, I got like a 2 on that, which I was kind of disappointed with because that was one of the easier scrambles, I think. But I just kind of brushed it off because I still had a chance for a PB average. And then so I think around then, that's when Luigi got his 0.7. So he's pretty excited, but I tried to like not see what scramble it was or anything so I didn't get like nervous again. And then I went up for my fourth solve, and I kind of realized that like that's what he got the 0.7 on, because it was a very big cancel into the algorithm. And so yeah, I put it down and it got point 0.6, and I was honestly shocked that I was able to do it that fast because I was expecting probably like a point 0.8 more. But I managed to get a point 0.6, and I was really happy with that. Like I think I had guaranteed my PB average at that point, but maybe like minusculely. Um, and then going into the last solve, I wasn't really expecting another sub one, obviously. But I was hoping to get like a PB average. So I was hoping to finish with like maybe like a 1.6 solve, and I would be really happy with that. And again, I had a large cancellation on that last solve, and I was not expecting it to be a point 0.9. think I was expecting like a mid one. So when I found out that it was another sub one, I got like, I think you can see like I jumped out of my chair and started running across the room at that point. Yeah, I was getting really excited for that one. That was the really big surprise on that last solve, how fast it was.
Uh-huh. Now, your previous PB was 1.79.
Yeah, my previous PB is 1.79. I have a lot of averages, I think, around that point. Like I have a 1.79, a 1.80, a 1.81, and then like a 1.83, I think. So yeah, I have a lot of very consistent averages, although they're not necessarily the best for me.
Mm-hmm. Now, you mentioned on the post on the forums that you had problems in the past with your nerves getting to you. What was different about this competition?
Well, I think one big thing about this competition is that, well, I think I did a lot more solves beforehand, which kind of helped. And I also made sure that I kept my hands warm because for 2x2 especially, that's really important. And so I think I have like electric hand warmer now, which I think helped a lot. But I think the main thing was just focusing on my own solves because, like I said, like in past competitions, I feel like I've focused a lot on like how other people are doing that are good in the rounds, like whether it's Daniel or like Luigi or people. I always I'll see like he gets like a 1.3 on solve two, and then like I'll get so focused on that like my solve will be bad. So this time around, I just made sure that like I was only paying attention to like my solves and what I was doing, and I tried not to get distracted by everyone else.
Okay, now I have two small questions in regards to this bigger question. How does it feel to have the first sub one counting solve?
Well, yeah, that was really, I'm less like happy about the counting sub one and more about the average. I mean, because this is something I've been going for a while. I mean, like since like 2015, I think I started 2x2. And at that point, the goal was like 1.51, which was the record for like, I think 2 years maybe. But yeah, it's really exciting to finally get like a North American record. I mean, especially in like the USA, it's really hard to get any record at all. So like getting that was really cool.
How many moves was the .62 solve?
The point 0.6, that was 6 moves. So yeah, that was almost 10 TPS, which is pretty good for me. But yeah, I mean, I think when I was doing the actual solve, I thought it was a 5 mover, so I thought I did a little worse. But yeah, it was a 6 mover, so that's actually very good TPS for me, I would say.
And since you knew it was going to be a very fast solve before, how do you stay calm during an inspection?
Well, I think actually one of the important things is to not inspect for too long, because I think sometimes if I'm thinking about it for too long beforehand, I'll mess up, or if like I have my hands on the timer for too long, I accidentally like just lose concentration. So I try to do it pretty fast. Actually, if you look at Luigi's video, it's pretty funny. You can see him inspect the cube and then turn around at the person that was recording him and kind of laugh, and then he turned back around and solved. And I think that's probably one of the reasons I got slightly faster than him, is because he was like, I think he lost his focus a little when he saw it.
Yeah, that could be. So moving on, how did the rest of the day go for you?
Well, the rest of the day it was okay. I mean, I think I did definitely perform my best in 2x2. I got a 1.68 average in finals, which I was happy with because that's like underneath my previous PB average. So I would have just been happy with that for the day. Um, but I did pretty good in some other events. I got sub one in feet, did pretty good in mega minx, but I think those were the main events that I did that day.
Now, staying on track with 2x2, how
Mhm.
fast are you able to do the 2x2 or current 2x2 world record single, the 4-mover? Every time
Yeah,
I try, like the lowest I can get is 0.67. So that's not
yeah.
even as good as your 6-mover. I just have
Well,
trouble picking up the cube, I guess.
yeah, picking up the cube's a big thing. I think well, I have gotten it in one of my 2x2 sessions, so that's what I did that in like 0.35, I think. But my best, if I'm just like fooling around with it and trying to get like my best time, I think I've done it like 0.32 maybe. Um, but I mean that's like I don't necessarily execute it as like the sledgehammer. I do like from a different angle,
Mm-hmm.
and yeah, I think that's a little better.
Okay, what is that?
Um, I think the solution is R prime F R U prime instead of doing sledge because during sledge you kind of do like F moves, which kind of makes it a little more difficult. So doing the other way makes it easier to finger check and well, easier to pick up too, I guess.
Okay, yeah, because when doing the first R, I guess you have to reach under the cube.
Yeah. Well, I think Mashev or whatever you pronounce his name, I think he did U prime R U R prime, and I think he kind of regretted making that solution later. He kind of said, I think he wanted to do the other one.
Mm-hmm. Okay, how long do you think that record will stand?
The single, I honestly think that the single will now be broken somewhat soon. Um, well, Australia somehow seems to keep getting like 4 movers or 5 movers or something. But I mean, Felix, yeah, he plus 2'd out of it. I think soon one of the top 2x2ers will get a 4 mover and probably get like low point 0.4, and then that'll probably stand for a while. I mean, I think it's just so specific, like how many moves you have to get that it's hard to beat it. But I think it's been a long time since like there's been a chance, so I think it'll happen again soon.
Hey, going back to mentioning of Felix, did he really get a 0.46 plus 2 on that
Yeah,
scramble? Okay,
yeah,
I
he did.
heard a little bit about it, but didn't get any more information.
Yeah, I forget which comp that was. It might have been the one where, um, in Australia where there was a 0.60 single. But yeah, he definitely. I remember him getting a 0.46 plus 2, and everyone at that point, if he had gotten that, he would have held the single solve world records from 2 through 7. I mean, yeah, he's not at like his prime for 2x2. I mean, at one point, I think he had the world record. But yeah, he seems to every now and then get like really good stuff. Like he recently got like the 1.5 average, which is sub me, and I was like, what?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's a big surprise.
Staying on track with 2x2, could you list what you average at home and like your best 5,
Um,
12, and at least 100?
yeah, well, my best average of 5 is like point 0.9, I think. I think I have like one or two averages of 5 that are sub 1. Average of 12 is like 1.23 maybe. And then I think my average of 100 is like 1.48. I mean, at home, I would say I average like low 1.6 maybe, but also, I mean, even like an average of like 1,000 or whatever that I keep track of, it's a lot more about scrambles and stuff. It's kind of hard to tell what you average at home when it gets down to like such low times and stuff. But yeah, I'd say 1.6 maybe. I
Mm-hmm.
think that's probably I think my best is probably like high 1.5, but I don't really average that anymore, I would say.
How often do you get sub 1 solves?
Um, I mean, I get them pretty often. I don't know exactly. I mean, probably like every, at least in like an average of 50. I don't really keep track. Um, but yeah, I get them a lot of times. But yeah, getting a back to back like that, that was very lucky. I mean, if I get like even within a few solves at home, I'll like get really excited because I'll get possibly like a good average of 12 or something. So yeah, that was really unusual that we get back to back.
Mm-hmm. How did 2x2 become your favorite event? Could you share that
Um,
story?
yeah, so I think it was at Nationals 2015. I mean, at that point, I was just kind of like still a beginner cuber, I would say. I wasn't into that many events. Um, but I got like a sub four, a two by two average. And at that point, I was really happy with that because I think that was like 800th in the world. And I was really happy about that because that was like my best ranking or something. And then I ended up making the semifinals. So that just really showed me that two by two was my best event, even though I hadn't practiced it that much. And at that point, I still didn't have any like podiums at a local competition. So I was looking at like the rankings and stuff nearby and saw that like I could possibly podium. So after nationals, I got really excited about two by two and I learned like CLL, and I think I got down to like low three. And then after that, it just kind of coming be like it was like this cycle of like me improving and then not doing good in competitions. So I improved more in order to do better in competition, because two by two that's probably one of the hardest events to do good at officially. Um, but I just kept getting more motivated to get better and like podium and then like win and then like get sub two. And I also had a lot of fast friends like Daniel Rosavine, Christopher Chi, Luigi Soriano that really kept pushing me to like beat them and get faster. And that was a lot of my motivation for that.
I can see how that can definitely help.
Yeah. The East Coast really has like probably the fastest two by two solvers in general. Like there's just so many fast people. And then like if you go to like other states and stuff, like I think I would win by like a second or two sometimes. Well, yeah, even a lot of times it just comes down to like specialty. I mean, like California, obviously they have like Max Park and a lot of fast people, but they're really not like heavily on two by two. Like I think I think the one guy has a two flat average, but that was kind of lucky for him. I mean, like down here we're good at like a lot of events on the East Coast, I would say. But yeah, I think it's cool like different regions to have like events that they're really good at, and then some that they're not really good at. But I think that's kind of a cool thing in the U.S., well, in the world too.
Yeah, that's definitely interesting. Now, let's dive into your hardware. Could you
Yeah.
explain your method?
Yeah, my methods, well, I use a lot of different subsets. I think I know the most algorithms in the world for two by two at least. So I know full EG, which is that's CLL, EG1 and EG2. And that's like when you make a face and then you're pretty much able to solve the entire last layer or the whole cube from there in just one algorithm. And then I know a few more subsets similar to that where you make like something on the bottom and then you solve the rest in one alg. That's like called TCLL, which is similar to CLL but with a twisted corner. And well, actually now I've been working on a subset where you make 3/4 of a layer and then you solve the last layer and the last slot in just one algorithm. But that's kind of a work in progress.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. And then for my actual cube, I use the Cubicle Wapo M. I actually didn't buy it. It was Daniel Rose David. He pawned it off to me as one of his rejects, I think, because he has like two or three of them.
You said the
Yes.
WAPO?
Yeah, the Wapo. I used the Wuxia somewhat recently for a while, but I just get a lot of corner twists on it.
Oh,
And
really?
I can't. Well, I think a setup one would probably be pretty good, but I think I get a lot of problems with like not necessarily internal popping, but catching and like corner twists, which is a big problem. Like I think my DNF rate increased, so I kind of went to a WAPO after that.
Why do you like the WAPO so much?
Um, I mean the feeling. I like the feeling a lot, especially since I use a stickerless one. Um, it's not. I mean, the main thing for two by two is that it doesn't corner twist. It doesn't catch that much, and I think the main reason to use WebPo is just because it's magnetized. I think it's a well set up cube. For two by two, there's most of the cubes right now at the top of the market. Like I could get around the same times on any of them. Like if I used a Weipo, like a Chuwen or like um, the Wuxia, I could probably get around the same times. And when it comes down to just kind of like the feel, like a Weipo, I think is kind of like I like the smooth, but it's also like not too smooth like the Wuxia. Um, yeah, it's just I think it's just a solid cube in general.
Yeah, it's interesting to see an older cube still perform at the top.
Yeah.
Because
Well, I think
a
for
lot
me, it
of
kind of made yeah. You can what were you gonna say?
a lot of faster 2x2 people use them.
Yeah, I think when the Wuxia came out, some people switched to that, but I think some people have also switched back, like kind of like I did. Um, but because I think I felt it was kind of a little hyped up, and then I didn't think it'd meet as much as it should have, but it's still a pretty good cube. But yeah, I think most fast people use Waypos now.
Have you tried the GAN 249 V2M?
Yeah, I've tried it. I think at the recent competition I forget if it was a black one or a stickerless one. It looks pretty cool. I don't think it'll like compete with necessarily the top 2x2s. Um, I mean, it's definitely not bad. I like the feeling of it actually. Like it's kind of fun to play around with, but I don't think I would be able to get like exactly the same times on it.
Mm-hmm. What do you think is the best budget 2x2?
The best budget 2x2. Well, I saw the Yushin recently came out with one. I don't know how that ended up being. Um, I think actually some of the budget 2x2s are pretty good. Like I think the Chi DS or whatever
Yeah.
I think it's called. Well, I've tried a few of those. Those are pretty good. Um, and then the MF2R, I don't know what that's called,
Yeah,
but
the
I think that's also
MF2S. That's one of my
yeah,
favorite budget ones, although I haven't tried the Chi one.
yeah. Those are both. I think they're both pretty good on like performance for that. For 2x2, the budget cubes seem to be like actually pretty good in general. They all have like, I mean, I think a lot of them are based off more like a WAPO than anything.
Mm-hmm.
Um, they have the same, but it's like a little more scratchy. But yeah, they're all pretty good, I think.
Yeah, the reason I asked is last week's show we talked all about the best and budget cubes of 2018.
Mm-hmm.
So I was just wondering your opinion. What's the hardest thing about getting fast at 2x2?
Well, I think at the start, one looking is probably the most difficult because, I mean, for the algorithms, they're all pretty short and stuff, and you don't have to learn like new recognition for them. But one looking that was probably the hardest part when I was getting fast because it's a lot about just repeating it, and it's kind of hard to do when like at first it'll take you like 30 seconds to a minute to one look to solve. I mean, as you get faster, like it gets a lot easier, but that was probably the hardest part at first. It was a lot of trial and error and stuff because it's not like a tutorial where you can learn each case. There's just so many varieties. And I mean, it's also really hard to do good officially, which that's one of the harder parts about getting fast is learning how to overcome your nerves because if you get nervous officially, and I mean, that can just ruin your average completely.
Yeah, that plays a big part in these quicker events.
Yeah. I think, yeah, 2x2, yeah, small cubes, it's just a huge part of that. And I think a lot of it's just going to as many competitions as you can, and then you slowly like learn how to get better and be more consistent.
Mm-hmm. And then you're not as worried as to do good because you have more chances.
Yeah.
Do you have any tips for picking up the 2x2? That's something I struggle with.
The main thing is actually, I kind of have a weird timer start, I would say, for most people. My right hand seems to be a little closer to the cube than my left hand, which I've kind of noticed recently in videos. But I mean, finding like the right distance from the cube to the timer, I think is important because I see a lot of people that have it like almost right up against the timer. And for me, I almost feel like that's kind of awkward, like angling in like that. But that's probably one of the important parts. The other thing is when you're planning out your moves, rotating the cube in a way that's good. Like if you were doing sledgehammer, it's not necessarily the best idea to hold the cube so that when you pick it up, you were doing R prime F or F prime. If I was doing a sledgehammer solution, I would do like an X rotation and then do like R prime U or U prime. And so I think angling the 2x2 when you're starting, that's important. And also like the distance away to make sure that it's a comfortable point to pick it up so you can go right into the alg.
Those are some great tips. Thank you.
Thanks. No problem.
Now, let's say intermediate 2x2er, he's averaging 5 to 6 seconds with layer by layer. What are the steps for that person to get faster? Do you recommend learning Ortega at any point, or how do you switch between that and layer by layer?
Well, Ortega and layer by layer, some people have different recommendations. I think in general, it doesn't really matter which one of those two you learn, but I think they're kind of like in place of each other, even though layer by layer is like a subset of Ortega. With layer by layer, if you do that more consistently, sometimes you may get you'll get more skips, just like PLL, and you might get some faster solves. And you can also just train building your CLL layers more, which when you transition into CLL, that can help. But whether you go for LBL or Ortega obviously has the advantage of like easier sides since you don't have to focus on one type of layer. But either one, the main thing to focus on is recognizing your cases fast. And I think also before you start like learning a bunch of algs, you can start learning not how to one look, but how to like predict your OLL. And I think that can help a lot. Like before I went into learning straight CLL, like every few solves, I would know like what my OLL is going to be. So that way I could go straight into that and that would make me a little bit faster. But I would recommend transitioning into CLL, maybe when you're low 4. I think that's probably like the best point where you're definitely going to see some improvement.
Yeah, that's pretty similar to what I did. I was like in pretty much sub 5 with layer by layer and a little bit of Ortega just when I couldn't easily build a block. And I was able to get a 4.74 layer by layer official average.
Yeah. Well, I used Ortega, I think, before I switched to CLL, just because I think it had a little bit more freedom. But yeah, that's when I got my sub 4 average. With that kind of like made me want to learn more 2x2.
Mm-hmm. Now, you have been to 58 total competitions, and
yes,
you've already been to 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 competitions this year, so just about one per month. What is the funniest thing that has happened to you at a competition?
Well, usually getting a lot of funny stuff with mainly like Daniel Rosavine. I think it was Red Cross. There's a funny story so me and him and Luigi, we were just kind of like hanging out during some of the downtime in like the hallways of the school. And then for some reason, I forget why, but Daniel started like sprinting down the hallway, and then he didn't know it, but then I saw like this security guard chasing after him. So all of a sudden, like this woman was like running down the hallway after him, and then Daniel ran outside of the school, and he ran like it was probably like half a mile, like all the way around the campus because it was pretty big. And then he comes back in panting, and he didn't even know that the person was like chasing him the whole time.
Wow.
Yeah.
Was he sprinting just for the fun of it?
I think maybe he had like taken Luigi's cube or something, and he was running.
Oh.
But then, yeah, it was.
What's your favorite non-cuber comment you get?
I mean, I obviously get a lot of the stereotypical like, I can peel the stickers off and stuff. Well, actually, my mom, she's an elementary school teacher, and so her kids are like, she gets a lot of her kids interested in the Rubik's Cube, but it's always funny how like they'll get all they talk about is like parody for some reason. They're really interested in like parody. Like they always break your cubes and stuff or like mess it up, and every time they're like, "This is parody. This is parody." But yeah, it's one of the funnier ones. Well, one of my favorite ones is, well, I think one of my track coaches had seen me doing it at one time, and he's just like, "That's disgusting." How fast I was moving my hands, I guess, but yeah, he was like, "That's gross."
And you weren't even doing feet.
You know, I actually have done feet during school once, but it was during science class, and our teacher was asking if anyone had any like weird things that their body did. So some people were like, I can bend my thumb back, or like I have like opposable, or like I have like double jointedness, and I'm like, I can solve a Rubik's Cube with my feet.
Mm-hmm.
So
that's a good one.
So I had to demonstrate, of course. But
yeah, that's good. Speaking of cubing speaking of school, do you cube at school at all?
Yeah, I cube at school a lot actually. Well, I have a bus ride during school. I go to like the Career and Tech Center about halfway through the day, where they have like different classes. Like I go there for computer science, but it's like I have a bus ride there. I usually do it. And also during like track or cross country season, I usually have about half an hour between the end of school and the start of practice that I cube. So I usually get a lot in during the day, and that's actually probably my main source of cubing before I go home and like do homework and stuff.
Mm-hmm. One quick question before I want you to answer the question of the month. What's your second favorite event?
My second favorite event is probably, well, I think I've been getting a little more away from it, but probably fewest moves. Mm-hmm. I've been practicing that a lot recently. Well, recently I actually got a sub 30 average at my last comp, which I was really excited about. But because that's top 100 in the world, that's probably my second best officially also. But yeah, I've been really getting a lot into that just because, I mean, I like more like the theory behind it, like switching between like normal and inverse and doing like insertions and stuff. That's always been really fun. A lot of that I learned from Christopher Chi, though. He's been into fewest moves for more than I have, but yeah, he's one of my friends.
Yeah, that's something I want to get into, and I'll answer, or that will be part of my answer in the upcoming show with Question of the Month. I thought it'd be cool if you could answer this. What event or cube have you been wanting to learn, and why haven't you started?
Well, the only event I don't have officially is 5x5 blindfolded. But I think the event that I haven't necessarily learned is clock. I mean, I want to get into clock, but just because like improving my summa ranks. But I mean, the big problem is obviously hardware. Like every time I go up and try to like, I'm going to practice clock for this competition, I get like 3 straight DNFs because like my pins are falling down.
Yep.
Or like it's not working properly. I mean, that's probably the main thing that's holding me back. Is that like the only way to get good at clock is to like spend like $50 on like a Rubik's clock from eBay or something.
Yeah.
But if Moyu or Chi comes out with one soon, I'd like to get into that and get faster, because I think that's my worst ranked event as of now.
Mm-hmm. Okay, great answer. Yeah, if Moyu Chi comes out with one, I'll be the first one to buy it.
Yeah. I think if that happens, it'll probably be like square one with like the Chi, where all of a sudden like everyone's getting faster and we see crazy new times.
I'm averaging like mid 25s right now, and I could easily be sub 20. Just I have to keep holding the pins up and stuff like that. So that's kind of frustrating. What are your goals for nationals this year?
Nationals. Well, my main goal is to podium in 2x2. I'm not going to say win just because there's going to be a lot of fest people, and looking at what happened last year, there's a very, very small difference between first and third. Mm-hmm. But I'd like to perform well in 2x2. Last year at nationals, I was pretty disappointed because I started off with like 2 1-second averages, and then in the semifinals I got 1-1 DNF 7-3. So I didn't even get in the finals, and that was pretty sad.
Yeah, I was just looking at that this morning.
Yeah, because I had made it in 2016, so I have a kind of like a gap year. So I'm hoping that it doesn't affect me too much in finals. But I think now that I have like a better official average, like I've felt a lot less nervous. So hopefully I can do good. Also for nationals, well, I'd like to make finals for a few other events like Scube. 3x3 finals would be amazing, but I don't know if I'm quite there yet. I'd like to do good in fewest moves. I'm excited to do like, I don't know if I can still qualify for multi-blind, but I'm excited to do like big blinds there, like 4x4 blindfolded, because I don't get many chances to compete in that, but I've actually kind of liked that one recently. But yeah, I also just have a lot of fun with friends and stuff. Because 3-day competitions do have a lot of also downtime to like hang out and stuff.
Yeah, that's cool. Now, in regards to cubing, what's something you've changed your mind about recently?
Something I've changed my mind about recently is probably events. Just like, I mean, I've always thought that like feet was kind of a stupid event, but I mean, I think that's one of the ones where you practice and you get a lot better at it, and you find that it's like, I mean, it's actually a pretty cool event. I think like, yeah, Daniel's getting crazy times, but I think I'm sub 1 now, and it's a lot of fun. It's also like a nice, more relaxing way than doing, if you've gotten tired with doing it your hands for a while. And I think in general I've gotten like a lot more interested in other events like big blinds and stuff, because I think until somewhat recently I've been pretty much like only specializing in 2x2, and I think branching out has helped me in a lot of ways as like a cuber in general.
Awesome. Well, Will, thank you for taking the time to come on the Corner Cutter podcast.
Oh, no problem. It's lots of fun. Thanks for having me.
That was an awesome discussion with Will. I know you guys learned a lot. A few things before we go, though. First, I don't mention this as often as I probably should, but you guys can support the show when you buy cubes. Just go to thecornercutterpodcast.com/support, and you can find all the ways to support the show. I have affiliate links and codes with thecubicle.us, speedcubeshop.com, and cubedepotUSA.com. For thecubicle.us, all you have to do is use the promo code CornerCutter to get 5% off your order. For Speed Cube Shop, you can click on the link that's on the support page and before you order your cubes, and that way you can support the show. You can also use the promo code CornerCutter there to get a discount. And for Cube Depot, you can do the same thing as Speed Cube Shop. Use the link and then use the code CornerCutter to get 5% off your order. So you're getting a discount and you're supporting the show. So I do appreciate anybody who does that. Also, don't forget about Question of the Month. I need your responses by June 25th. The Soccer Turtle Cuber already gave his answer, so I would like yours as well. The question is, what event or cube have you been wanting to learn, and why haven't you started? You can record your answers by going to the show notes of this episode, by going to thecornercutterpodcast.com, clicking on the show notes page. And again, I need your responses by June 25th. One cool thing I did recently, you can check it out on my YouTube channel, which is Corner Cutter, and I'll also have the video in the show notes of this episode. And that is solving a 5x5 while riding a unicycle. The hardest part doing this video was actually staying in the frame of the camera, because I set up the camera on a tripod and just did circles, so I got quite dizzy. But it ended up taking about 4 minutes to solve, and it was fun to make. So it goes quite well with my 3x3 video, which I solve a Rubik's Cube in 17 seconds. I would recommend you checking that video out. If you have any comments on anything we covered in this episode, please feel free to email me, feedback@thecornercutterpodcast.com. Or actually, an easier thing to do is going to thecornercutterpodcast.com/feedback and filling out the contact form. Maybe you disagree with something Will or I said, or you have a comment about something we mentioned in the interview. And if you do leave feedback, I will give you a shout out in the next episode. Well, that's about it for this week. Thank you so much for listening. It's now time to take this episode back to the scrambling table, and I'll talk to you guys again next week in episode 40 of the Corner Cutter Podcast. And here are a few bloopers for you loyal listeners. Now let me just get up the question. I don't have this one in front of me because I filled out my notebook. And I just got a new one. Let's see. Show notes. Last question before... Nope.